Jared was 6 foot tall, 300 pounds. His shoulders were wide and his belly was round. His mouth was the size of a quarter, but he always wore a smile. He was a pleasure to have around when the nights got wild. We were driving in late October in a souped-up Escalade. Two old thugs talking about their feelings and all the mistakes we made. It's hard to know just how you end up wherever you're at until you're driving around with 25 grand and unmarked bills and a big black Cadillac. I ain't chasing that lonely feeling, I ain't looking for a way out. I'm just making the most of what's on my toast, and then I'm choking every single crumb down. I ain't saying I'm a good man, but I sure as hell ain't all bad. I keep myself from wanting what those other people have. Yeah, Jared was a little different. He seemed to see the good in everyone, but never once did he hesitate to get the dirtiest of dirty jobs done. So when I got the call from the big man, I said yes sir and hung up the phone. I stopped the truck to take a leak before I sent him to his final home. With my finger on the trigger, I asked him to turn around. I had to see that little smile one more time before he hit the ground. I told him I was sorry, and I knew he understood. He would have done the same damn thing if he was standing where I stood. I ain't chasing that lonely feeling, I ain't looking for a way out. I'm just making the most of what's on my toast, and I'm choking every single crumb down. I ain't saying I'm a good man, but I sure as hell ain't all bad. I keep myself from wanting what those other people have.
Oh, so it's Sunday morning here in Campbellford.
Yeah.
It's still pretty early. You played a show last night at West Bend, which was fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Whiskey Wednesday show again. We have guest in the studio here today, Del Barber, who's a new friend to me. I've sort of known him on and off for years, and we've crossed paths a bunch, but this is the first time actually hanging out and spending time together like this, which is incredible. Your show last night was fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a great time. It was beautiful.
West Bend's a nice theater, eh?
Can't believe that place. I looked at the pictures online beforehand, and I was like, this seems like some strange sort of complex. And I was wondering if there's going to be some cult stuff I'd have to learn before I got there. Just rituals and things. No, it was. I couldn't believe when we rolled in how beautiful the grounds are and how positive everybody is there, and that's just such a rare thing on the road to have that much positivity. The whole crew was just happy we were there. I didn't feel like they were lying to me. They weren't just doing a job for the paycheck. They seemed to actually like their jobs. That's pretty cool, man.
They work way too hard to
and
do
as you
it
know,
for the paycheck.
That's more rare than we would like it to be in this business.
It really is. It really is. That's one of the reasons I love West Bend. I love working with Brian, and from top down, Brian and Donna instill a feeling of community, accepting new artists, evolution, all those positive terms you can come up with. Is
Yeah.
sort of that's all West Bend's mandate, which is amazing.
Definitely got that sense.
Yeah.
It's just so nice to be there, you know.
So last night we saw you and Ryan.
Yeah, my pedal steel, he plays bass in the band, and he's playing some telly for me too, and sings a little bit. And
He seems to know what he's doing.
he's great, and also great player, but just more than anything else for me now on the road, it's just like having good people, part of my crew, people that want to be there, people that are easy to travel with, and people that just really love the music. So you got to find those people in your life and not let go of them. So I'm just desperate to hold on to my crew right now, you know.
It's when you find those people that, you know, there's 1,000 musicians who can do the job.
Yeah.
But when you find that person that can do the job plus be a friend and a traveling companion,
Yep.
it's rare and it's so cool.
Yep.
It seems like you two get along really well, and he's a fantastic player. He had that pedal steel sparkling last night at West Bend. It was just lovely.
Yeah, he isn't, and you know, it's like also just the ego thing for guys like him. He doesn't want to step on songs. Just really support songs, and finding musicians that want to do that sometimes can be challenging. Usually it takes them years before they realize what it's all about, you know. And Ryan just figured it out at a young age, and just knows he doesn't want to overplay. It's like the last thing he wants to do. So I don't know, it's just super enjoyable, and for us to get to do a duo show, we haven't done it in probably 5 years, so it's been nice to try and do that again.
Man. It's a really nice show, and you also
thanks.
tour with your full band.
Yep.
Right? Is that a 5 or 6 piece?
Well, there's 4 of us, yeah. So it's drums, a guy who plays electric guitar and mando and aux stuff, and then Ryan plays bass and steel in the band. So
Cool.
yeah, it's been really good, and we just got off a 32 show tour. I've just been running around. I've been down to the States, and
You were just in Copenhagen last week.
I was just in Copenhagen last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What show were you doing there?
It's this festival called Tonder, if you were pronouncing it like I used to.
Oh, so it is Tonder.
It's Tonder,
okay,
yeah,
right,
but it
right.
wasn't the festival. They have like a side show where they promote the Tonder Festival
Right.
in Copenhagen.
But it's still Maria running it.
It's Maria.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Maria's wonderful.
She brought us out. They do like an associate show with the Copenhagen Jazz Festival.
Cool.
They put on a stage for like a week, and it was like Allison Russell and myself on the bill that night. It was a really nice show. Yeah.
Did you meet Fleming?
Fleming was not there.
Oh, but you know Fleming.
Yeah, very well.
He's a
I
cool
love him.
guy, eh?
Oh yeah,
He's probably one of the coolest guys.
He's
I know
always-
the first time I met him, I was like,
always in an Iron Maiden shirt or something, or Megadeth or something, and just like he's just like at these like Americana festival and enjoying it, but he just what he really wants is for someone to just like play some metal for him. Yeah. One of those guys. I love him. Yeah, I always enjoy hanging out with him.
yeah, him and Maria are very sweet. I've gotten to know them a little bit over the years from just meeting them at late night drinking. And
Totally,
stuff,
yeah.
and a lot of great stuff.
She's always at the ECMAs, and she's always at all the big events. She works her butt off.
She does, and she spends a lot of time coming to Canada to look
Yep.
for talent too, which is incredible.
It's just such a big Canadian contingent in Denmark at those festivals, and I think it's mostly because of her. And the relationships that all these people have built with her to come, and I don't know, it's pretty cool to see. I'm definitely a benefactor of that, so, you know.
Well, it's good. I mean, that is, I'm a semi-advocate for conferencing. You know,
Me too.
I love
I'm on the fence.
I love the networking and I love all that stuff, but there's also there's a cyclical money thing which sort of freaks me out.
Yeah, it's not quite right.
There's something there. It's like
Yeah.
the government's like, here's money. We can give you money to go to this, and then we'll give them money, and then it's just like this weird thing happening.
Yeah, well, the term circle jerk comes to mind. I know it's inappropriate, but it definitely like metaphorically works.
It's a strange underside of it, but the beauty is, once you get past all that and you've either paid or found funding to go to these things, which most musicians do, it's the meeting people like Maria.
Totally.
I met her at one of my first conferences and we became friends, and I'm still in touch with her. It's those people, those worldwide connections that you make that are really, really important to building careers. Like you say, you've had a great time with them.
Yeah. I mean, we met at a conference, so I can't complain. The amount of people I've met at even to just associate the word conference with the music industry is weird.
It is. I find
That's
it
just
very
like
weird.
already feels ironic to me.
Yeah.
and so like I'm going to a conference and I explain it to my partner, my beautiful loving partner, and she is like, a conference? This doesn't sound real. When I started doing them 10 years ago or whatever. and then explaining what they actually are and how you actually feel when you play them. And like a lot of these things are in hotel rooms and they're ugly and they sound bad, and it's like, this isn't doing us any favors, you know. Anyway,
you never know though. Like I did when I did my first conference. I can't remember which one it was, but I mean, I had like a 2:30 a.m. hotel room showcase. I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm at 2:15. I'm in the outside the room, and there's somebody else playing, and then they finish, and you know, the 10 people in the room leave, and I walk into an empty room, and I start my first song, and one person walks in, and another 2 walk in, and then by sort of, you know, 15 minutes into my 20-minute set, there's 6 people in the room, and this other guy walks in making a 7th, and he sits in the back, and I'm just up there. I'm like, this is ridiculous. What am I doing here? This is so stupid. Yeah. My first conference too. I'm coming from like, you know, a world of rock and roll where it's just like it's a different thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. And I played, you know, 5 or 6 songs, and after this guy came up and shook my hand, and he was the booker for Merlefest, and he booked me on Merlefest that year. And I'm like, how the hell did I get a booking on Merlefest from a 2:30
Was that Steve Johnson?
That was Steve.
Yeah. That's a great festival.
Yeah, it's great, but like you never know what you're going to get out of these things, which is the key, right?
Totally.
You never know what you're going to get out of it.
That's a wicked story. Yeah.
So I do recommend them. I
doing okay.
You?
Perfectly. Finally, taste the spring, warm winds and 100 cups of coffee. It's days like these that remind me why we fell in love. Well, she says, darling, I disagree. Our love is a 4-wheel drive Chevrolet. We didn't fall, we climbed up and drove away. So many people crying about their fate. So many of them won't do a goddamn thing. So me and you, Maria, me and you, Maria, me and you, Maria. It was last year in the winter. You were always looking at your shoes. Even the clerk at the grocery store could see you were carrying around an unholy book of bad news. She said, don't know how to feel about anything. Don't know why I should care. Feels like a sad grand irony that everyone's convinced they can get us from here to there. There's a raven flying low with roughed up feathers. Reminds me of your favorite lines from our old love letters, and the things you can't let go, and dreams that don't grow old. Like me and you, Maria, me and you, Maria, me and you, Maria.
It's the conference aspect of music, but that's become the musician's burden now. It's no longer just like, oh, be a musician, write your music, do your art. It's now write your music, do your art, do your own press, do your own videos, do your own recording, do your own engineering, learn how to master, make your own videos. Like all this stuff that we do as musicians now, it has become the burden of the musician to actually run your own business.
And then figure out how to get gigs. And then you talk to your local music boards that are run by boards of directors and nonprofits, and it's like you're getting into this, you're like stepping into a bureaucratic world that you didn't expect, and those bureaucracies are there's some beautiful things happening with them, but they're bureaucracies.
Yep.
And they look for specific things all the time, and those things are changing, and it's really hard to like reconcile making art and being a part of that. There's definitely some tension there for me, and I'm not in a position, and no one really is, where you get to pretend to opt out of all that infrastructure, and it is weird, and there's some really good benefits to like state sponsored music. But there are parts of it that as Canadians we need to start like questioning and sort of improving, and not expecting that's going to be a given forever, and trying to develop these economies that are sort of more up our speed and up our alley. I'm trying to find the right metaphor, but you know what I mean. Like a lot of it worries me, and I'm a person who benefits from all of it, and I have for my entire career, and I worry that I sort of have a dependency on those things, and that's something that really bugs me, man. I don't want to be dependent on all those boards, but that's just the reality of Canadian music. But it doesn't happen in the States. There's tons of songwriters like me who make it work, who just have figured out how to do it. And I don't know, sometimes I worry about our dependence on all of this infrastructure that we've created. And I don't know, it's good, there's lots more jobs in the sort of in the arts because of it, like all those people that work for all those conferences.
But it's a lot of it's hard to not get sucked down the rabbit hole of sort of some of the like you say, the problems with that sort of bureaucratic organization. But it's, I tell you, for any musician out there who's curious sort of what it's like, do one factor application.
Yeah.
Pick a simple application, and don't do it without sort of trying to do it. And if you successfully complete an application for factor, you've essentially done a course in marketing.
Yeah.
Because all the information you need to put into that, like the first time you look at it, you're going to be like, well, what is that? And you need to research it. And before you know it, you're actually putting together marketing plans, budgets, touring plans. It's all this amazing stuff that you need to know.
You need to have a plan. You're going to make a record and put it out. You need to have a plan for what happens after.
Exactly.
And you don't need to worry about that maybe when you're making it. Like if you have the luxury of time.
Yep.
You don't need to put the cart before the horse. So many of us do that. We think about marketing before we actually have a product that's good.
Well,
something we love, and we want people to hear. It's a lot easier to market something you're sure about.
Well, and that's just it. There's been many times where like I finish a record and like, oh, this is great. Okay, I'm going to go looking for funding now. And then it's like, well, if you wanted to get funding after the record's done, you're waiting for at least a year, probably a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how many musicians out there have finished a record and then said, oh, I think I'll wait a year and a half to put this out. No, we want it out today, right? Yeah. So, if you want to really get into these things, and I find a lot of the artistry puts the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
And
that's the basic framework.
Premise.
Yeah.
And I've had artists, reach out to me. They're like, I got this big, I'm not going to say which grant, but I got a big grant and I need to come do some shows in Ontario and I can't get any gigs.
Yeah.
Can I come open for you and I'll give you like $5,000 that I need to spend out of my budget? I've got to do 4 Ontario dates. I'm like, that sounds weird.
It's weird.
But it's like, again, they put that marketing together years before the record was made, and part of the marketing was they had to come to Ontario to do a certain amount of shows, and then the record came out and didn't really do anything, and then they couldn't get a gig, but they still needed to fulfill the budgeting and all that. So
it's not uncommon. This is not like an aberration in the scene.
Exactly. So it's an interesting place, and you can use it, and you can abuse it, and you can also get addicted to it, like you said.
Yeah,
or get too reliant.
And also, it can really be the game changer for people's careers to have sustainability. Like, I'm not trying to just sit here slogging on it, because I don't think that's at all the case. But we do need to sort of ask some sober questions about how we're supposed to use these things well, and what it's supposed to amount to, and how much, there's bigger conversations we're not really getting at, is with the direct factor funding for labels, and the new system that's just been in place, and all this stuff. I'm just curious about how it's evolving, in terms of what the record label is now in Canada, and worldwide even, and distribution, and like, when I started, I got like a distribution. I was signed with 6 Shooter Records, and it was like distributed by Warner Music, and it was like the tail end of, I don't think maybe I got records in HMV, but it was just like when that was disappeared, and all my friends who had distribution deals, their records were all over Canada. Like, I would go and see folk artists, and I would listen to their records on the headphones at HMV.
Right.
And I got my first like indie deal. It was just like, that was over. But I never knew it as a thing for me and my income. But I watched them go through this thing where all of a sudden they started selling 80% less CDs across the country. And it was just like immediate, like, income bracket change.
Huge.
From next to nothing to nothing, right?
Yep.
And they were already struggling, and I'm coming up, and I'm like, I just sell CDs from stage. That's the only place I know. That's the only thing I know. And I burnt them, and my first bunch of tours were like U.S. college towns, and I just like burned CDs and sold them to people at frat parties. It's just like what I did, and and so all these people coming up, they just have a different idea of what the industry is and what it looks like, and streaming, and those are things that I'm just like, I'm almost 40 and I feel like out of touch with it.
Yep.
And it's freaking me out,
It's a brand new world out there. I think I mentioned last night when we were chatting about some stuff, it was somebody I was talking to recently, and I said, I got some new music. I'd love you to hear one of the tracks. And they said, well, what are your numbers? I said, what numbers? I kind of knew what they were talking about. They said, well, what are your Spotify, Instagram numbers? I said, well, do you want to hear the song?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I want to know your numbers. And I immediately lost interest in furthering any conversation with this person. It is a different world for the business out there. Some of us older, somebody called me a legacy artist.
Oh man, that must have hurt.
Wow, that's a tough one. But it's kind of true. The Watchmen have been around for 30 years, and I've been a part of it for over 25. And I'm 54 now. So I am sort of becoming a legacy artist, I guess, or am a legacy artist. But yeah, I'm really out of touch with everything, And I think that's what, if I tried to stay in touch and tried to stay in the business, I think it would probably be really painful and very much against everything I believe in.
Well, that's the thing, and everybody, words like sincerity and authenticity are just like, they're so important to people now. Mm-hmm. And I think it's always been the essential piece of music. It's like, when we believe you, it's good. Yeah. You have to be honest when you go and write a song, sing a song, play bass, whatever. Yep. And I think that's the same thing people have always wanted.
What were we just talking about?
I don't know.
I can't remember either. Okay, let's talk about
Almanac. Sincerity. Yeah.
Sure. Sincerity. Yeah. Well, Almanac.
Sure.
Sure. This is your new album?
It's my new record. Yeah, I don't even know when it came out, but it's just a couple months old, and just touring it and trying to force people to listen to my songs as usual. And it feels great. It's the first record I wrote without any previous song ideas. I always have this like bank of song ideas, and I make all these notes. Mm-hmm. And, I just put out the record before Almanac was like a B-sides record, where I like went through all my notes from the last decade and found those songs that I had sort of forgotten about, and I thought were worthy of my attention. And that was like a record I made in the pandemic in a cabin with my buddies. It was just like songs that I needed to finish. Mm-hmm. And then so I finished all these sort of threads, and I had nothing, and I got to write a record like kind of all at once.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was just a really cool, that was like the first time in my career where I did that, because I always just had this like backlog of stuff I was working on. And so my records would have songs from I was working on a couple years ago, and then brand new ones, and they were always just like sort of, I always would go into the studio with like 30 or 40 songs and try to tell a story, try to get the songs that were about the same thing. We get into seasons of life, and you start thinking about particular things you want to talk about if you're a songwriter generally, and so there's themes are really easy to find. But this one was just like a direct, everything was sort of linked, and I got to sort of just write the whole thing at once, and I really enjoyed it. And I guess that's what I'm going to have to do now forever, because
you have no more backlog.
Backlog's gone. I mean, I'm starting to try and create that thing where I just, every idea and every moment, I come up with something, just write the thesis of that idea down at least, so I can go back and attend to it, and hope that I can create another backlog, because I really loved going through that and wondering about those things again, and also throwing out ideas that suck. There's like the greatest freedom as a writer for me is realizing when something isn't good enough, spending enough time on it, and then saying like, glad I visited you for a while, but I don't believe this.
Yep.
Or this melody just doesn't do it for me, or whatever it is. There's no character, there's no picture I can paint.
It's amazing how much we throw out.
Gotta throw them out.
But you have to.
Like the idea of letting go of those ideas that seemed good at 2:00 in the morning, or at 6:00 in the morning when I wake up, and I'm usually the most creative. It's just like being able to let go of that stuff without fear of consequences was so freeing for me. So trying to create that backlog so I can have that.
Yeah, freedom. The backlog is I've always relied on it. I've always have it. I mean, I would say like I had a bit of a writing block when Allison got sick, and I didn't write a full song for a couple of years because it was all just bits and pieces, and so much of it was around health and well-being, and it just didn't seem like stuff I wanted to share.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I've got like a massive pile of stuff now, like verses and choruses and lyrics, and just like piles of notes.
That's what I want back, because I
do love that, because I find that you can go back through that every now and again and pull out some real gold that you might have missed.
Absolutely, it's really easy when you're a songwriter and you're active, like you're kind of doing it all the time, and everything is you're training your eyes and ears to look for the songs, and just anybody could do it. You start writing songs, you start seeing the world through that lens. And for me, it's just like not forgetting to take a minute and write it down, or put even just voice notes.
Because if you don't, it's gone. I mean,
it's gone.
We know
you
that.
Think you're gonna remember.
I'll remember this. It's too good to forget.
Even just a little guitar hook. You pick up a guitar and you play a hook. It's all someone needs to just have that moment to be like, this is about this. Okay. Yeah. Boom. And then once you get once I get the idea of the song, like who it's actually about or what I'm trying to say, then it's fine. Then I can finish it.
Right.
Do you have trouble finishing songs?